Dear listeners, what does it take to stand on a stage in front of a crowd and sing about the thing that you have been most afraid to say out loud? So, today's guest, that thing is the reality of bipolar disorder, the loss of people he loved to suicide, and the belief, hard won and hard lived, that being vulnerable is not a weakness. It might be the most powerful thing that any one of us can do. So, this conversation is for anyone who has ever felt like they had to hide what they were really going through. You don't, because today's guest is the proof of that. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, where we have the honest human conversations about what it really takes to live well from the inside out. I'm your host, Avik, and today's guest has done something that takes a particular kind of courage. He has taken the most painful parts of his inner life and turned them into music that heals. Yes. So please welcome my guest. I believe you all know him. Please welcome Dylan Garcia. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Avik. How you doing, man? Thank you for the introduction, man. That was awesome.
Amazing. I'm really happy that we have you on this show today, Dylan. And I really love the music and really love what you are doing. And but before we get into the discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with all our listeners. So, dear listeners, as you all know, Dylan is a recording artist with over a decade of career spanning acoustic reggae, funk, and new soul. Soul, a performer who has headlined the Whiskey A Go Go in Hollywood, performed at the Latin Grammy Music Week showcase, and graced the stage of the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas. Exactly. So he has collaborated with Diamond certified producers and Latin Grammy winners. So but the performance that defines him most is not any of those stages. It's the one where he stood up for mental health awareness and the suicide prevention. Because for Dylan, that cause isn't a platform, it's personal. Yes. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get into the discussion. Welcome again to the show, Dylan.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. So, Dylan, I want to start somewhere personal because I think it's very important that our listeners understand like who you are before they understand what you do because you have been open about living with the bipolar disorder and you have lost people you loved to suicide. So those two realities together, carrying your own mental health challenges while also grieving people who couldn't carry theirs. There's an enormous amount to hold. So before the music, before the advocacy, before any of it, what was it? And what was the like to live through? I mean, what kept you here?
Uh, and I'd say childhood was good. You know, I had I guess you would say, I grew up in the 80s, my childhood. So typical 80s American childhood, things were a lot different back then. You know, we had like Nintendo and Sega
Mm,
Genesis was barely coming out. And we all used to go outside and still play and uh, I grew up in a neighborhood that was still kind of it was still developing. They were still building out the neighborhood. So we were one of the first people to move in there. So all of us kids, it was like everyone had kids that lived on my street. So we all hung out and had a good time, man, rode bikes. It was like just a good childhood. I noticed I was like a little different from early on in childhood because I was super adamant that we'd get these like homework assignments for the whole week, and then you would get them on Monday.
mm,
You turn it in on Friday, and like I'd be done on Monday. I'd be done with the whole project on Monday,
mm,
and then I'd do it so I could have fun the rest of the week with playing out in the streets with my friends who weren't doing their homework. And school was just it was always important to me, not the outcome, but more of like the input of learning how to use your mind and thinking, critical
mm.
thinking. And luckily, I got to go to university in Irvine, California, University of California, Irvine. And then that's when I bought my first guitar. And that's what, I had uh, I had a I took, like, band class in junior high school, so I was learning, I wanted for some reason because of have you ever heard of Kenny G? The famous because of Kenny G, I wanted to learn how to play some kinda saxophone or something, so I was playing saxophone in junior high school in the band class, and I was really jealous because all my other friends were in guitar class. There was, like, a
Okay.
first year they were doing guitar class, and I chose saxophone. And I remember this kid at the talent show was playing, "Stairway to Heaven" on an electric guitar, and I just thought it was the most it sounded so good, and seeing someone so young rip that song, and I'm just like, "Oh," like, dude, like, I didn't even know the kid played guitar, and it was
Yeah.
something I always wanted to do because I was always obsessed with music. Yeah, I was obsessed with music at a young age, like, listening to the music that my dad listened to, like, his record collection, and, when I bought a guitar in college, it was just to express myself, to see if I could do it, because it's not
Yeah.
easy learning a musical instrument, but I wanted to see if I could express myself. I wanted to see if I could learn how to play this thing. And with my mind, I would always like try to conquer something and then I'd give up. After I conquered it, there was nothing else. I wouldn't continue. Like I would always
Mm.
try something new, conquer that, and then on to the next thing. My dad still tells me I'm still the same way to this way. Like I conquer one thing and I'm on to the next thing that I gotta conquer. I can never just stick with one and just ride it out. I don't know. I was always a little different, man. I always was. I wanted to be a good son, a good brother. My brother and I were 4.5 years apart. So, and I played sports, but I wanted just to be a good son and a good brother. That was like the main thing as a kid, so I wanted to make my parents proud. That's probably why I was doing that. I wanted to, hey, look, I got all my homework done on Monday.
Mm. Yeah.
Now I look back, I'm like, man, that was kind of weird. I always had to have everything done. I'm always just like the way I was. But music was always something that was with me since I was a little kid, like, as far back as I could remember, like, listening to Michael Jackson
Mm.
and, like, "I wanna rock with you." Like, that stuff was just yeah, that
Yeah.
stuff was just and it's so
Exactly.
crazy 'cause now I look back and it's like, "Whoa," like, I am finally segued away to do the music that a style of music that I loved as a kid, like, that made me fall in love with music. To finally come full circle like that, because I could never I'll be honest, I was never the best. I didn't end up becoming, the next John Mayer on guitar. I just wasn't that good of a guitar. I'm a decent guitar player, but when it comes to like really, I just never got that good. My hands and my coordination, and there's so much to it. And plus, I wasn't taking no classes or anything. I was just teaching myself.
Mm.
But that was like, I'm listening to other artists do funk music while I'm doing reggae music, and I'm like, "Dude,
Yeah.
I wish I was not playing reggae music." Like, I wish,
Mm.
and then it wasn't until it was like in COVID. It was during COVID because I was working
Yeah.
during COVID. I got together with this younger kid who was a songwriter and an artist, and we got together and we were writing some songs together, like just getting together. There wasn't really much opportunity. There wasn't many venues where you could do shows. There was all the stuff that was going on with COVID. And
Yeah.
so we would get together and I learned so much from him in the studio. Like, but we had this conversation, we were having a show we would play shows together. It was a one venue that would
Yeah.
do outdoor concerts and we did some shows. He would join. Such a great guy. His name is Jaden Secor, man. I love that dude, man. He's had such a successful career right now, too.
Yeah.
But we had a conversation. I said, dude, do you know that I don't even listen to reggae music? And he's like, well, why do you play it, bro? And I'm like, because it's the only thing I know how to play. And he's like, bro, I didn't know. He's like, why didn't you say anything this whole time? Because him and I messed around and did a funk song together. But he was like,
Okay.
why didn't you ever say anything? And I'm like, I just didn't know. I just kept going and kept going and kept going on this reggae career. And then I had these studio sessions booked out here in the Coachella Valley to work with Ronnie
Okay.
King and Tony G. And that's when Tony G was like, man, Dylan, why don't you just kind of put the guitar down for a little bit and see what could happen without the guitar? And my dream was to be a front man of a band, leading a band, doing my music, funk, performing, not having to play guitar, like being the front man. And that really
Yeah.
opened my eyes where like or open a door where it was like, well, I guess that's the direction I'm finally gonna start going now. And now here we are up to present day. Like I'm almost got everything together, like we were talking off camera about, having
Mm,
the full band
mm.
to do my shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a period of time, I would say from early 2010 to about 2000 about 2018, that time frame, about that 8 years.
Mm, mm,
When I first had having issues that went out of control with my bipolar, they were, uh, immediately saying that I was possibly schizophrenic. And, because I was having auditory hallucinations, hearing voices, seeing
mm,
things, just really, really out there. And it wasn't until 2018 when I really started advocating for myself, like, to get better, because I was on a medication that they would give patients who were schizophrenic that had delusions, but I was on it for such a long time between 2010 and 2018 that the it started causing the side effects eventually started happening. Long-term
mm.
side effects from this medication, where my jaw muscles, my facial muscles would lock down, and it's called the dystonic reaction, where all your muscles lock up. And
Yeah.
terrible, man. That was happening for many times. Like I kind of say that time frame, like some
Mm,
parts were good, a lot of it was bad, especially when the
yeah.
side effects started happening. Because then it came down to, do I take my medication because I know
Mm,
this action is going to happen, or do I not? It was like, which one was going to be worse, my mind or the reaction to the medication to control my. And I started really asking, like, the place where I was going to for my healthcare, so well, for mental health services,
mm,
like, if I could get a new doctor. I was telling them, like, I feel like you guys don't have any doctors that are really trying to help people get better. I felt like it was just a never ending cycle. You show up to your appointment, you talk to them for 5 minutes, they write you your prescription, and that's it. They're not really doing any any what would be the word? They're not doing, like, anything major to really figure out how to combat whatever your symptoms are. And, I'm not gonna lie, because everyone says the pharmaceutical industry and all that. Look, when I finally advocated for a new doctor, when I had a doctor step out on a limb and say, "Hey, I don't think you're schizophrenic. I think you're bipolar. You're too spot on of a person to be schizophrenic. Like, this isn't just doesn't make sense." And once, when medications changed, I got something for bipolar, like an antidepressant, like, everything just changed all of a sudden. And I'm like, like, wow, like, everything's back to, like, normal. Like, how long has it been since I've had this kind of clarity?
exactly.
And that moment, I made a promise and a decision to God, like, I was gonna do everything I could to not go backwards with my mental health again, because I had already so many times that I had to go backwards because of those side effects, the medicine not working, just things like that. But I can say, I don't wanna knock all psychiatrists, because they're not all
Mm,
bad, but there are some really, really good ones.
exactly.
Some, I wish there were more that really were really trying to do a good job with their position as a psychiatrist, and trying to make sure that they give the best of care to every single patient, because every single
Mm,
patient is different that's coming through the door. Not all of them are gonna be like, "Oh, no, this guy's not psych." Sometimes,
exactly.
and then a lot of times you got, in which I know for a fact, being around other people who suffer with mental health issues, sometimes they don't wanna take these people don't wanna take their meds. So that's an uphill battle with a lot of psychiatrists too, because their patients don't wanna take meds, or their patients don't wanna be consistent. Their patients don't wanna come to the appointments. So there's just, like, so many so many things that, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I'm just glad and grateful that I got a second chance. That a second chance that I could still do my music, I could still perform, and live somewhat of a normal life.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I have to say this, that I really thank you for sharing this, because I think so dear listeners, I before we go to the next one, which is very, very important, I believe. I also know the time is constrained, but still I have to say this, that I think when someone says that I have been through this, from the other side, it carries a completely different kind of truth than anything clinical or theoretical, because you are not saying these things from a distance, you have lived them. And that is something, that's exactly why your music reaches to people the way it does. So that is most important, and I really, really applaud for this, for what you have done. I really, really thank you for that, for bringing this awareness as well. And because we are talking about the mental health awareness also, so one more thing is coming to my mind is like, for someone who is listening right now, maybe they'll be listening later, who is quietly struggling, maybe with their own mental health, maybe with the fear that something is wrong with them, that they cannot name it. So what has been the most helpful for you personally in terms of the daily practices or anchors or anything that you can share?
Well, the hardest thing I think was knowing. I mean, we're talking now
Mm,
15 over, so what's it, 20, so we're talking about, 15, 16, 17 years from when I was going through that stuff in like
mm,
2010. That like the terminology was different back then. It wasn't about mental health awareness. It was like they said, "Oh, no, he's got a mental illness." That's how they labeled it. And there was no really. I would go to a small group that was
yeah,
run like how Alcoholics Anonymous was run, but it was a mental health support group that we'd all go to. Going to groups like that really kinda helped me see that I wasn't the only one struggling. I think the hardest thing was to accept that something was wrong, and it's something that I journey with. But when you see somebody else, because with mental health, it's not like you got a sign on your shirt saying what your diagnosis is,
mm,
and we see people every day walk on our paths, and we don't know what that person is going through. So when I got to be around other people. And I think when I saw the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, and that was about the dude that had schizophrenia that won the Nobel Peace Prize, about John Nash. It really that seeing that movie made me realize, like, wow, maybe this isn't something that I need to see as a negative. Maybe this is something where I can tap into another source that the average person can't. And I tried to see it as a superpower then instead of being a weakness. I started,
yeah,
I'd be around people would tell, "How do you write music? How do you write songs so fast? How do you get and I'm just, I don't know. It just comes, and
yeah,
maybe that's just the journey that God put me on, to tell this story I always say this, I say, God, why did you make me go through all that? Because when all this stuff started happening with my mental health, I just signed a record deal. I mean, I had a lot of like back in my late 20s where everything was lined up for me to off as a rising artist and as a reggae,
yeah.
right? It was like God's response was, I needed you to have a better story to tell,
Very true. Very true.
you know?
It's, I mean, yeah, please continue. I'm totally connecting with that.
I just think, because back then I wasn't really advocating for anything. I was advocating to be famous. Because I finally, when I picked up the guitar in college, it was just to express myself. And then I just kept
Yeah,
doing music. I got the music bug, whether I was rapping, writing reggae songs, playing guitar. I was just always music just became the
yeah.
main focus of my life. And
Mm,
when everything started happening, and I met Ronnie. Like I got basically co-signed by Ronnie. Like, yep, this dude's dope. Let's bring him in. Like
okay.
it was like, dude, my confidence level went through the roof when it was like, man, this whole time I've been doing music, nobody's giving me opportunities. People turn their back on me. People stab me in the back, stuff like that. And I'm like, wow. But I'm over here impressing. this
Mm,
dude does work with Tupac, right?
yeah.
Like, that was, like, the moment. That was the moment right there where it was like, "Holy shit, like, I got it. Like, I got what it takes. I could do this." Now, that's just the music side of things because you have the business side of music as well. But to know that at I was at that level creative wise and me trying to be Mr. Creative guy as much it was just like, dude, I'm over here oppressing this dude right now. I was like, that was to me was like,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Like, are we really doing this right now? Like, is this really happening? That was the moment when it was like, okay, I think I can really
Exactly.
this is like I could hang not that I could be in the studio with people of this
Yeah.
caliber and hold my own where I'm not like, he's
Mm,
not good enough yet, or he's not experienced enough yet, or he's just it was like I mean, I'll tell you, man, it was a nerve-wracking moment the first time I ever had to play to a click track. You know what a click track is, right? Your click track to stay in time, the metronome, and they put one on, and I remember they changed it to a shaker. It was
exactly.
a shaker. It wasn't like boop, boop, boop. It wasn't like that. They changed it to a shaker because they had said, okay, we're gonna. And the first time I heard a metronome, I said, "What the fuck is that? What is that? Like, how are you expecting to play with this thing in my ear?" Right? And Ronnie was like the expert to throw on a shaker or something. Dude, this guy's a surfer, man. Let's make it really. And next thing I know, within 15 seconds, I had the rhythm, and they're like, "Oh shoot, he's got it, he's got it." And I'm hearing this on the headphones, so my confidence is just rising, and I'm thinking to myself, "I knew I could, I knew I could, I knew I could do it, I knew I could do it." And it was just like I never really even thought of it this way right now. Like it was a moment in my life where I was like, "Dude, this has always been in me." I just
Mm,
never was around the right people that were gonna get it. I was never around the people that were at that level to bring it out of me. When that started happening, that was just like one of the biggest moments of my life, man.
so anyway, so that is totally fine. So like why I was mentioning about like it's totally great that because what you shared, it's definitely an expression is a form of I would say the health and not just a kind of entertainment or the talent because everyone has the version of this. Everyone has something they need to say or create or release and when we find that when we stop waiting until that we are good enough to express it something shifts and
Yeah.
that is something I really love about it. And so Dylan, like before we conclude, I love to ask any message that you want to give to the listeners today.
You know what? If you got an opportunity to do something and it's something you've worked hard to do or an opportunity maybe that you don't think you deserve, you better show up to that opportunity and give it all you got because sometimes you don't get those opportunities again in life. You know, like you gotta like in a baseball game, you hope it's bases
Mm,
loaded, the bottom of the ninth inning, and the game's on the line and it's tied, or you're
mm,
pitching, and you gotta strike the guy out, or playing football, you're on the or playing so whatever. It's crunch time. It's time to go, and
exactly.
because you never know if it's gonna happen again. Don't get me
Very
wrong.
true.
I'm just like every normal human being. I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my abilities. Doesn't mean I don't get scared. Doesn't mean I don't get nervous. I mean, some of
Mm,
these shows that I've had, I was a nervous wreck. There was even one show that I had. Oh my God, I had to start meditating right before I went on stage just to just center
mm,
myself because there's so much energy and emotion, especially some of these really big shows that I've done. But I'm sure as hell glad that I did it because I don't want to be that guy grown old and wishing about the things that I didn't do. And I
amazing.
think that's part of living a full life. So if my journey has to include, me going through bipolar setbacks and delusions and all the crazy stuff that comes with mental health crises, if I
Mm,
had to go through all that to tell this story to somebody else or to a listener on your show where they hear something where it maybe sparks a light or sparks something where like, man, maybe I should go get help.
mm,
Man, maybe I shouldn't commit suicide. Man, this guy pulled through it. Man, like just something they hear, then that's me. what my experience and what I went through,
Yeah.
paying dividends because not only, like how you said, come through on the other side of it, but not being selfish about it and really giving back
Yeah.
what my experience was to the world to try to help some other people, man. Because at the end of the day, we all need help. And I'd rather be a vessel or a light to help people than to
Hmm.
be only focused on myself.
Totally agree. Totally agree with you. And I'm really mesmerized with it. And so Dylan, like if someone wants to connect with you, and obviously from all of the world, people know you, but still, if they have something they want to share, or maybe they want to connect, want to discuss something, how they can connect, or which will be the best platform to connect with you?
My links and everything and my website is dylangarciamusic.com, DYLAN, like Dylan, like Bob Dylan, dylangarciamusic.com. It's got my whole music catalog. It's got my bio, my story. People can join my email list, but then they can see my social media,
Yeah.
connect to my social media from the website, and they could just send me a message, man. I'll be happy to reach back out to them.
Amazing. Amazing. So, dear listeners, all of that will be in the show notes. And Dylan, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
honesty,
thanks for having me, man.
and hats off to your music and for the lives that you have already touched and the ones this conversation will reach for sure. So this that matters more than words that we can say. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And I want to leave with one message today, just for the moment, that today was different. And today is about the music, yes, but more than that, it was all about what it means to carry something heavy, choose to keep going, to keep creating, to keep showing up, and also to use your voice for the people who haven't found theirs yet.
Yeah,
So if, yeah. So if this episode reached you, please share it, because you never know who in your life needs to hear this, right? And also, I would say if you're struggling, please reach out to someone, anyone, and you know the number of your local, the 988, which is very popular, because you matter. So with this hope, I'm your host Avik, and this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. See you there in the next one. Till then, be happy and thank you so much.
thanks, Evan.